Welcome back to Behind the Book, unpacking Black financial culture, building wealth from the inside out. I'm your host and author, Dr. Michael Thomas of the book. If you already don't have a copy, please go grab one. You can purchase it wherever books are sold online. And if you are crypto curious, there is a platform called stuff.io where I have a copy of the book published on chain, and you can grab one there. Now, the beauty in stuff.io is that you don't have to actually know anything about crypto. You don't even have to purchase the book utilizing crypto. So, great platform if you're wanting to get some exposure in a low risk way that is owning a digital copy of my book. You can do it that way. So, to get into the conversation today, we're going to talk about chapter 4 briefly, which is entitled Abundance. Anyone? So the big picture here is that I struggled with an abundance mindset for a very long time, but not for the reasons that you may think. So the opposite of abundance would be scarcity. And when we oftentimes think about scarcity, we may be thinking about socioeconomic status. We may be thinking about individuals experiencing poverty, the working poor, and how navigating an environment for so long can create a mindset that keeps us stuck um, and thinking that resources are limited and maybe inducing a little bit of a crab in a barrel effect. Now, for me, and growing up, one of the things that scarcity did was it allowed for me to get really, really comfortable with this illusion of not having anything. Now, what do I mean by that? When you grew up in an environment like I did, 90s, Gary, Indiana, at the time, there was a lot of stuff that was going on during that period. And it wasn't out of the norm that someone would be jacked or robbed for sneakers, a gold chain, your stereo system in your car, your home be broken into, like all these other different things, right? That would transpire. And so for me, um, I kind of looked at scarcity as a protection mechanism, right? So if people didn't know that you had anything, then nobody would consider you to be a target. And so for me, in terms of a scarcity mindset, in terms of not displaying wealth or any type of opulence, so to speak, about yourself, meant that you were protected, you were safe, and you were secure. And a struggle with that was I rejected abundance because I felt as if abundance would make me a mark. Let's just have a very honest conversation. Now, what's fascinating is that the world that I navigate today is not Gary, Indiana, 1990s, but the emotional resonance and residue of that time period really stuck with me for a very long time. And so I struggled with earning more money. I struggled with having titles and positions. And I'm just going to be quite honest with you. The reason why I drove my 2005 Toyota Camry for so long was because I felt invisible. I felt like if I drove that Camry for years and years and years, even though my financial position had gotten better, that I somehow was protected, which I know is an absolutely weird way of thinking about the world. But if people perceive me as not having anything, right, then I wouldn't be a target. And so for me, this chapter, Abundance Anyone, is this whole notion of me kind of like wrestling with this internal self-talk that I've had about money, how I found safety in scarcity, and engage in a process of rejecting notions of abundance because I had to deal with some deeply seated fears and emotional wounds, and might I say, trauma to some respect where I had to rewire my brain, my adaptive response for navigating a period of time when I was younger. Although it may have served me in that season in my life, it actually started to become maladaptive. as I got older, because I would forgo opportunities, and not because I wasn't prepared for them, not because I couldn't succeed, not because I couldn't make more money, but because I felt a sense of, or a lack of safety and security in having more. Maybe this may not be your story, but again, I wanted to write a book that was incredibly authentic to my experience and kind of wrestles with what we'd call like money scripts, and how our earliest experiences kind of form and mold the way that we engage with resources. And it's not enough for me just to tell you what that is and to tell you how you can see that in yourselves. Why not experience that through my experience? And so one of the things, and I think this is a really cool element in the book, um, that really helped me, was use of language. And I call this changing the labels. So when I work with clients, one of the things that we'll go through is their spending plan or budget. And I like to use spending plan because it feels less restrictive. And in navigating that, we will identify how they label each of the categories. And then I'll go through a process and assess whether or not there's a strong emotional attachment to that category based on its label. Because if that language induces a strong, um, or has a strong emotional tie, maybe we can utilize different language that doesn't elicit the same emotional response and can mitigate our emotions in such a way that allows us not to be stressed, it allows us to be more proactive in our capacity to utilize our prefrontal cortex in order to work towards a financial goal. Okay. So here, this is a little excerpt from chapter 4. We call it our Get To Fund. My wife and I chose that name because we didn't want to associate our past traumas with our current resources. We both experienced backgrounds where financial shocks meant going without lights, heat, or potential evictions. For the sake of our mental health, we needed to use language that was more about hopeful anticipation instead of one that induced a level of dread. We simply made the choice to change the labels on everything in life and our spending plan that no longer served us, even the way we thought and talked about money. Our Get To fund ensured that an unexpected expense wouldn't thwart a family vacation or a financial milestone. Now, what is Get To taking a place of? Emergency fund, right? So for me, emergency fund is very triggering because I already have a mindset that's hyper vigilant when it comes to money. So I am very much so a save first person because I'm always thinking about what can happen. And so much so that it has prevented me from experiencing a lot of amazing things that have happened throughout my life because I would rather lean into security than to do something fun or engaging because, like, what if something happens? Okay. So for us, taking away emergency fund was very important because it leaned into somewhat of a scarcity mindset. But Get To was also a forward thinking way of thinking about life, right? So I get to engage in abundance in a whole host of different ways, and that's a good thing. It's not that something to feel guilt over or shame about or to have to hide from it. It's a choice. Do I choose abundance or do I not choose abundance? Even before I experience it, you have to choose it before you can have it. And so this chapter kind of engages in all these different dynamics that I think is a real experience that a lot of people have, but it's very hard to find the language and articulate it and to work through these things. So I just wanted to leave it there. Again, um, the whole point of this book is to be authentic and raw and to speak directly to my personal experience in a conversational tone that engages, that encourages you to go on your own journey as well financially. And so chapter 4 is this notion of abundance and in thinking about it, not just from individuals who are experiencing scarcity, but then how do you internalize that scarcity? And maybe, like in my instance, maybe you found safety, comfort, and peace in scarcity. And if you have, then how does that impact your ability to pursue, engage in a financial journey that's filled with abundance? Because you have to navigate one system to another system. And in essence, you have to kind of become another person. And that's a journey. That's difficult. And so I hope my book helps you find the language so that you can begin to find the solutions that are unique to your personal financial journey. So I'll leave it there. I hope you got a lot out of this video. As always, until next time, you have more power than you think. Own it. Bye.